What if I told you the wildest, weirdest, and most mind-blowing ideas in sci-fi TV didn't start with streaming giants or CGI blockbusters, but with a bunch of fearless creators in the 1960s? Imagine a time when network execs still thought lasers were just fancy flashlights. Yet some shows dared to change everything. Which series rewrote the rules and turned television into pure rocket fuel? Let's dive into 15 that launched the genre into the stratosphere, one shock at a time. Star Trek 1966 to 1969. You've heard the phrase, boldly go where no one has gone before. But do you realize just how bold that was in the 1960s? Star Trek didn't just fly the Enterprise through the stars, it flew right over the heads of censors, skeptics, and every TV rule in the book. Gene Roddenberry's vision was a cocktail of science, social commentary, and real hope for the future, mixing aliens with Cold War metaphors and tackling issues like race, war, and what it means to be human, all at warp speed. This show didn't hide behind ray guns and rubber monsters. It threw them at you, then hit you with questions about justice, unity, and morality. Kirk, Spock, Uhura, Sulu. This wasn't just a cast. It was a declaration that our differences could make us stronger. It was the first American show with a multicultural crew sharing the same bridge. That kiss between Kirk and Uhura, that wasn't just TV, that was history happening right on your living room screen. Sure, it got canceled after 3 seasons. And yes, the special effects look like someone raided a Christmas tree for set pieces. But here's the kicker. Star Trek inspired generations to dream bigger. NASA astronauts, tech inventors, and even cell phone designers tipped their hats to this show. Reruns turned it from a ratings casualty to a full-on phenomenon, sparking movies, sequels, and a fandom that refuses to quit. Without Star Trek, the sci-fi universe as you know it might not even exist. Talk about a legacy. The Twilight Zone, 1959 to 1964. Step into the Twilight Zone, and you're stepping into a place where reality has a tendency to dissolve under your feet. Rod Serling didn't just write scripts, he opened trapdoors in your mind. This wasn't sci-fi for eggheads or basement dwellers. It was a smorgasbord of suspense, horror, social commentary, and pure imagination. Each week, viewers braced for the twist ending, knowing that nothing in Serling's universe was ever as it seemed. What makes the Twilight Zone a genre giant? It didn't just shock or scare, it used sci-fi as a spotlight, turning the lens on paranoia, conformity, war, prejudice, and all the dark corners of the American dream. Monsters Are Due on Maple Street made neighbors look at each other sideways. Time Enough at Last gave us the ultimate cruel twist for every book lover. Even the introduction, Serling in his suit, inviting you to enter a world of shadow and substance, became legend. No show before or since has matched its blend of high-concept storytelling and social guts. If you've ever watched Black Mirror and felt uneasy, thank The Twilight Zone. If you're into twist endings, ambiguous morals, and a sense that maybe, just maybe, you're not in control, you're living in Serling's shadow. The series became the backbone for anthology sci-fi and set a standard for every show that ever wanted to do just one more thing. In the end, The Twilight Zone isn't just a TV show, it's a warning label for reality itself. Doctor Who, 1963. How do you keep a sci-fi show fresh after decades on the air? You invent regeneration, and suddenly, your hero never really dies. Doctor Who isn't just a series, it's a cultural juggernaut. Picture this, a blue police box that's bigger on the inside, a time traveler with a wicked sense of humor, and monsters as imaginative as they are terrifying. The Doctor isn't your average alien. He's your best friend, your mad scientist, your conscience, and your ticket to every corner of time and space. What makes this 1960s British import so wild is how it blends the fantastical with the deeply human. The Doctor and his ever-changing companions jump from dinosaur-chomping adventures to meditations on mortality and loss, all while fighting off Daleks and Cybermen that would haunt a generation of children. The show's budget was shoestring, its sets sometimes laughable, but its ambition was off the charts. And when the original Doctor died and was replaced by a new actor, it didn't kill the show. It unlocked infinite storytelling potential. Doctor Who inspired generations of writers, inventors, and dreamers. It turned low-budget TV into epic mythology and made timey-wimey a phrase people actually say with a straight face. Its influence stretches from comic books to Hollywood blockbusters and beyond. If you think British TV is just costume dramas and dry humor, think again. Doctor Who put the UK at the heart of the sci-fi revolution, and the TARDIS still hasn't landed for good. The Outer Limits, 1963 to 1965. If the Twilight Zone was a haunted house for the mind, The Outer Limits was the abandoned laboratory next door. This anthology series wasn't content with a gentle shiver or a moral lesson. It wanted to blow your mind right out of your skull. Its introduction, with the chilling promise, "We control the horizontal, we control the vertical," told you to buckle up for a ride into the strange, the menacing, and the downright bizarre. Every episode was a new nightmare. Alien invasions, government conspiracies, accidental superpowers, and technology gone rogue. But it wasn't just weirdness for the sake of weirdness. The Outer Limits challenged what TV could show, pushing the boundaries of storytelling, effects, and subject matter. Writers and directors who'd later shape film and TV, people like Joseph Stefano and Byron Haskin, honed their craft here. Monsters were more than just rubber suits. They were metaphors for the atomic age, the arms race, and our deep fear that the future might eat us alive. The show only ran for 2 seasons, but its DNA is everywhere in modern sci-fi. Watch any episode of The X-Files, Black Mirror, or even Stranger Things, and you'll catch echoes of The Outer Limits. It taught us that sometimes the scariest thing in the universe isn't an alien, it's ourselves. For anyone who ever wanted their sci-fi with a dose of dread and a side order of existential panic, The Outer Limits still has the remote control. Lost in Space, 1965 to 1968. Danger, Will Robinson. If you know that line, you know Lost in Space isn't just a relic, it's a cultural monument. At first glance, it's pure family adventure. The Robinsons, blasting off for Alpha Centauri, only to wind up hopelessly lost thanks to sabotage and a bumbling stowaway, Dr. Smith. But here's the twist. What started as straight-up survival sci-fi quickly morphed into one of TV's most beloved and eccentric journeys. Lost in Space was colorful, campy, and proud of it. The robots' catchphrases, Smith's over-the-top scheming, those silver jumpsuits, it was all larger than life. But underneath the foam rubber and wild storylines was a genuine sense of wonder. Each episode threw the family into bizarre new worlds, from giant space vegetables to cosmic storms, asking what it really means to stick together when everything is falling apart. Irwin Allen's show pioneered effects and ideas that would be recycled for decades. It wasn't afraid to blend humor and heart, and it proved that sci-fi could be fun for the whole family, not just the late-night crowd. Sure, some episodes are pure cheese, but that charm is exactly why the show's DNA is still found in reboots, cartoons, and Saturday morning nostalgia. Lost in Space made it okay to be weird, and in doing so, made TV a lot more interesting. Thunderbirds, 1965 to 1966. What if your childhood action figures could actually save the world? That's the wild magic Jerry and Sylvia Anderson unleashed with Thunderbirds, the marionette-powered thrill ride that exploded across TV screens in the mid-60s. Forget boring grown-ups in suits. This show gave us International Rescue, a secret family organization piloting futuristic machines straight out of your wildest toy box dreams. Giant rockets, sleek jets, underwater craft, you name it. Every episode was a new excuse for the Tracy brothers to pull off a daring rescue somewhere on the planet. The puppets had strings, and the dialogue was often delightfully earnest. But the action, that was big-budget blockbuster before blockbusters were a thing. Each week, the Andersons staged train wrecks, mine collapses, volcanic eruptions, and impossible escapes, all using miniatures so detailed they'd make Hollywood blush. Kids didn't just want to watch Thunderbirds, they wanted to be Thunderbirds. Tracy Island playsets sold out for years. The series set a new bar for special effects and made fab a British slang for cool decades before Austin Powers tried to claim it. But here's the real kicker. Thunderbirds was never just for kids. Its sense of global community and technical ingenuity quietly encouraged viewers to believe in science, cooperation, and family, even if that family was made of wood and glue. The result? Thunderbirds inspired a generation of engineers, filmmakers, and dreamers. It's still referenced in everything from Star Wars to Pixar, and its message, when disaster strikes, ordinary people can do extraordinary things, remains as thunderous as ever. The Prisoner, 1967 to 1968. Imagine waking up in a quaint, picture-perfect seaside village, only to realize you're actually a prisoner and everyone's calling you by a number. Welcome to The Prisoner, the single weirdest, most subversive, and most discussed sci-fi series to ever come out of the swinging 60s. Patrick McGoohan plays Number 6, a secret agent who's resigned from government work only to be drugged, abducted, and trapped in a resort town where nothing is what it seems. Surveillance, mind games, and paranoia rule the day, and the only way out is to fight for your identity, episode after episode. The Prisoner isn't just a spy show with a science fiction twist. It's a fever dream, a political manifesto, and a psychological maze all at once. Giant bouncing balls patrol the beach. Villagers act like extras in a cheerful nightmare. Every attempt to escape is blocked by bizarre new tactics from the mysterious Number 2, who changes faces as often as the weather. And that finale? Still debated and dissected decades later, with conspiracy theorists and philosophy majors both claiming to have cracked its code. No show before or since has dared viewers to question authority, surveillance, and conformity so directly. "I am not a number, I am a free man" became a battle cry for everyone who ever felt trapped by the system. Its influence? Colossal. The Prisoner inspired everything from Twin Peaks to Lost to Black Mirror, and it proved sci-fi could be art, protest, and pop culture chaos all at once. My Favorite Martian, 1963 to 1966. Before aliens were cool, before Mork and Mindy and Third Rock from the Sun, there was My Favorite Martian, the sitcom that made Visitor from Another Planet an absolute blast. Ray Walston's Uncle Martin crash lands on Earth, grows antennae at the worst moments, and casually bends the laws of physics like he's late for a dental appointment. Bill Bixby's Tim O'Hara, a hapless newspaper reporter, tries to keep his new roommate's Martian identity a secret in 1960s Los Angeles. Chaos, hilarity, and plenty of what just happened ensue. At first glance, the show is all gags and slapstick, shrinking rays, time travel mishaps, levitating household items. But dig deeper, and you'll find a clever, surprisingly heartfelt commentary on outsider status and the struggle to fit in. The Martian may have had superpowers, but his confusion over human ways is timeless. Every episode delivers a gentle poke at bureaucracy, neighborly nosiness, and the absurdity of normal life. My Favorite Martian did more than just make people laugh. It brought science fiction into the American living room and made it approachable for families. It paved the way for every fish-out-of-water comedy that followed and proved TV could blend sci-fi with lighthearted storytelling. The show's gadgets, catchphrases, and sheer charm made it a phenomenon, and even today, its DNA can be found in countless sitcoms about lovable outsiders. Voyage to the Bottom of the Sea, 1964 to 1968. Take the Cold War, add a dash of nuclear panic, and set the whole thing under 1,000 fathoms of ocean. That's Voyage to the Bottom of the Sea, the series that put submarines, monsters, and top-secret missions in the living rooms of millions. Helmed by Irwin Allen, the undisputed king of 60s sci-fi TV, this show followed Admiral Nelson and the crew of the Super Sub Seaview as they battled sea creatures, foreign agents, and the occasional mad scientist. Every week was a new doomsday scenario. Giant squids, mind control, underwater volcanoes. If it could threaten the world, the Seaview faced it down. The sets were a marvel, the miniatures cutting edge, and the stunts sometimes outrageously ambitious. But what made Voyage unforgettable wasn't just the spectacle, it was the relentless pace, the urgency, and the sense that humanity's survival was always one malfunction away from disaster. Underneath all the adventure was a subtle message about science, responsibility, and the dangers of unchecked ambition. It wasn't afraid to get weird either. Episodes ranged from gritty espionage to full-on fantasy, sometimes within the same hour. The influence is huge. Voyage opened the floodgates for undersea adventure, inspired countless movies, and proved you didn't need aliens or spaceships to make sci-fi gripping. Sometimes all you needed was a leaky hull, a ticking clock, and the endless deep. The Invaders, 1967 to 1968. Paranoia never looked so stylish or so terrifying. The Invaders turned every suburban cul-de-sac and empty highway into a potential alien battlefield. Roy Thinnis starred as David Vincent, an architect who stumbles onto Earth's biggest secret. Aliens are already among us, perfectly disguised, infiltrating every layer of society. Only Vincent knows the truth, and no matter how hard he tries, no one else believes him. Cue the relentless, nerve-shredding chase as he moves from town to town, hunted by aliens and dismissed as crazy by the authorities. Unlike other 60s sci-fi shows, The Invaders played it straight, with no comedy and barely a wink at the audience. Every episode was a slow-burning nightmare, ratcheting up the tension as Vincent uncovered new evidence and found new ways for it to vanish before anyone else could see. The aliens? Humanoid, but with a telltale pinky that wouldn't bend. That tiny detail became a national obsession for eagle-eyed viewers. What made The Invaders legendary wasn't just its premise, but its atmosphere. The show captured the fear and suspicion of the Cold War era perfectly, making audiences question who to trust. The ending never gave viewers the closure they craved, which only added to its haunting impact. Decades later, its DNA is all over the X-Files, Fringe, and every story where the real monsters look just like us. When it comes to making paranoia entertaining, the Invaders wrote the rulebook. Fireball XL5, 1962 to 1963. Before Star Trek ever hit the airwaves, British kids were already exploring the universe aboard Fireball XL5. Another brainchild of Jerry and Sylvia Anderson, this marionette-powered marvel took space adventure and turned it into Saturday morning gold. Captain Steve Zodiac and his fearless crew patrolled the galaxy for the World Space Patrol, zipping between planets, dodging aliens, and bringing justice with all the swagger a puppet could muster. But don't let the strings and painted sets fool you. Fireball XL5 packed more imagination per episode than most live-action shows could dream up. The models were futuristic, the rocket launches explosive, and the alien landscapes just wild enough to make your cereal taste a little better. And the music? That theme song alone could launch you into orbit. What really set Fireball XL5 apart, though, was its unapologetic optimism. In this universe, teamwork, brains, and bravery always won the day. Its blend of space opera and family-friendly fun influenced everything from later Anderson classics to major Hollywood franchises. The seeds of every kid's space obsession, starships, ray guns, robot sidekicks, were sown right here, decades before CGI was even a rumor. To this day, the XL5 crew reminds us that you don't need a billion-dollar budget to go to infinity and beyond. Sometimes, you just need a bit of string and a whole lot of nerve. Space Patrol UK, 1963 to 1964. Blink and you might miss it, but Space Patrol, known as Planet Patrol in the US, was the unsung genius of 60s British sci-fi TV. This wasn't a cartoon or some run-of-the-mill superhero adventure. It was pure interplanetary police drama, complete with ray guns, jet-powered spacesuits, and a galaxy full of bizarre creatures. Larry Dart and his team zipped around in the spaceship Galasphere 347, keeping the peace from Jupiter's moons to Pluto's icy wastelands. Unlike other puppet shows of its era, Space Patrol didn't play it safe. Its alien civilizations were bizarre, its humor was dry as Mars dust, and its science, while sometimes off the rails, was brimming with future shock ideas. Ever heard of Gabbler Dictum, the talking space plant? Only Space Patrol could make that seem normal. The show pioneered on-screen displays, multi-species diplomacy, and jetpack flight long before bigger budget rivals. Most American kids missed this one, but for those in the know, it was the real deal. Its blend of sly wit and forward-thinking design still inspires fans and creators. Space Patrol proved that science fiction didn't need to look to America for leadership. It just needed a wry smile and an unlimited sense of possibility. Today, it's a cult classic, quietly fueling the dreams of every kid who wanted to join the space police. Land of the Giants, 1968 to 1970. What if everything around you suddenly became deadly and gigantic? That was the central hook of Land of the Giants, Irwin Allen's last great 1960s sci-fi spectacle. When the suborbital spindrift crashes on a mysterious planet, its crew and passengers find themselves dwarfed by enormous insects, household pets, and, most dangerously, the planet's human-sized inhabitants. Allen, always the showman, went all in on spectacle. The series used oversized props, forced perspective, and wild stunt work to create a world where a simple chair or a glass of water could become a threat. Every episode was a survival story, a chase, or a desperate attempt to avoid capture by the giants. The tension was constant, and the stakes were always sky-high, sometimes literally. But Land of the Giants was more than a visual stunt. It tapped into Cold War anxieties about being small, powerless, and hunted in a hostile world. It explored themes of unity and perseverance, proving week after week that brains could beat brawn. And for a whole generation, it redefined what television was capable of, blending action, suspense, and just enough science to keep us all wondering, what if? Even today, whenever a show puts its heroes up against overwhelming odds, it's borrowing a trick from the giants of this one-of-a-kind adventure. Journey to the Unknown, 1968 to 1969. In a decade bursting with bold ideas, Journey to the Unknown slipped onto screens as an anthology show that was part horror, part science fiction, and all unsettling. Produced in Britain and exported to the world, this series was less about space battles and more about the eerie mysteries lurking just outside our everyday reality. Each episode was a standalone tale, and you never knew whether you'd get a story about psychic powers, time travel, or a future society gone wrong. The The show's genius was in its unpredictability and tone. It felt like taking a wrong turn in a familiar neighborhood and ending up somewhere you didn't recognize. Plots twisted, characters faced mind-bending choices, and endings almost always left you thinking. The show lured big-name actors and directors, giving it a polish that set it apart from other genre fare. While it didn't run for years, its fingerprints are all over later anthology hits, everything from Night Gallery to Black Mirror. Journey to the Unknown made it clear, you don't need laser battles to unsettle an audience. Sometimes, the scariest thing in the universe is a mystery you can't quite solve, and a future you might already be living in. Captain Scarlet and the Mistons, 1967 to 1968. Jerry Anderson wasn't done reinventing TV after Thunderbirds. Enter Captain Scarlet and the Mistons, a show that raised the stakes for puppet-based sci-fi by a mile. This time, Earth is under attack by the Mistons, a vengeful Martian race who can kill and replace anyone or anything they want. Humanity's best defense is Captain Scarlet, an indestructible agent fighting a covert war with the fate of the world in the balance. What set Captain Scarlet apart was its darker, more mature tone. Gone were the winks and nods. This was serious, serialized sci-fi for kids and adults alike. The action was intense, the models and effects even more impressive, and the storylines full of suspense and intrigue. The show's concept of retro-metabolism characters who could be brought back from the dead was groundbreaking, long before comics or big-budget movies ran with it. The show's legacy? It proved TV animation could tell complex, ongoing stories, not just one-off adventures. Its impact rippled through British pop culture, influencing everything from music videos to action figures, and its shadow still falls over every show that dares to blend high stakes with high-concept science fiction. If you want your sci-fi with guts, gadgets, and a whole lot of nerve, Captain Scarlet is still standing tall. So, after all those mind-bending worlds, giant leaps, and even bigger risks, which 60s sci-fi show would you beam aboard first? These series didn't just entertain, they rewired what TV could be, setting off shockwaves still felt today. Think we missed one? Or did a favorite episode warp your brain as a kid? Drop your picks in the comments, hit subscribe for more genre deep dives, and remember, when it comes to sci-fi, the adventure never really ends.